a celebration event that marks the end of a project which is called Scaling Up Co-Design. It has the purpose to share with you our experience and learning from this project, but also to hear your voices. We also hope that we are going to connect people, connect ideas, so it's a networking event. We hope that we are going to inspire new collaborations maybe, and maybe generate future collaborations. I would like to go back now in 2012, where the Arts and Humanities Research Council opened a research call for funding for proposals that are developing innovative approaches on how communities and community organizations can actively engage in research.
It's collaborative.
Collaborative.
It's creative.
Open and valuable.
Sharing and solving.
Inclusive, radical.
It's also designerly.
Co-design is about branching out, sharing ideas and making the impossible possible.
This is an opportunity for you to get to know each other a little bit more.
Co-design to me is working together collectively with different organisations in order to enable more effective learning and to make better services for people.
I think it's a group of people coming together in a way that respects everybody else in the room around the table to find a solution that is perhaps not everybody's perfect solution, but one that everyone feels suits their needs and they feel happy with. Co-design brings together a spectrum of knowledge and a spectrum of skills and experience in a way that a single designer can't do.
The idea is that there isn't necessarily one controlling interest, but that because there are multiple stakeholders who all have an investment, they all come together to produce a solution that is more satisfying.
Actually, I would like to invite you to look at these pictures and try to imagine what do you actually see in these pictures. I see these as moments of co-design. Co-design is a process that involves a number of activities that are coming together, like writing, sketching, drawing, making, conversations, chatting. You do all these things in order to share the conceptual development of an idea, to produce together with other people a specific action.
So I wrote optimist, researcher, French-American, curious and critical, creative, I hope.
Occupational therapist, because I've just finished my training to be an occupational therapist. Creative, I like to think I'm quite creative, and my first degree was in art, so I like to incorporate creativity into anything that I do. I'm a mother, I think that kind of describes me.
I'm a dreamer, I'm an artist, I like to think I'm an artist, and I want to change the world, and if I can't change the world, I want to change someone's world.
There's a real mix of people here today. We have people from all of the different sectors in terms of community and voluntary and commercial and local authorities. But we also have people from built environment, from the world of IT, from the research world, academia. It's a real mix.
Why I'm here today is to share my experiences working with Silent Cities in the Glass House in their co-design project, which was about place and space, and also to look at potential opportunities at how occupational therapy could perhaps look at utilising co-design in order to make community resources and services.
And I'm here because I want to learn more about co-design and how to implement this in practice and to do it properly.
And to also have an eye out for things for other research that we're involved in together.
Scaling up the project was about trying to find ways to extend co-design practices and to reach more people. So it's about creating more impact and using the resources you have.
Scaling up is getting more people, more organisations taking on board this collaborative way of designing and solving problems.
Scaling up is interesting because it's not just about scaling up volume, it's scaling up impact and reach. And so it's a broad spectrum idea.
We are talking about 4 different models of scaling up co-design. The one model, it was about reaching more people, reaching more communities. The second model, it was about cascading certain practices, some certain co-design practices through a rippling effect kind of process. The other one was more about networking, connecting expertise and knowledges. And the fourth was more about extending up, reaching the policymakers, whether this is the AHRC, the funders, or other gatekeepers and policymakers. The Scaling Up Co-Design project was one of the 9 projects that have been funded under this initiative.
So the first phase of the research project brought partners together to co-design the research question and the approach to the practice that the research would undertake. It's an unusual practice, and it was a real opportunity for all of us to inject what we were interested in getting out of the research. The second phase of the project brought us together again to think, okay, we've got this question, what are we going to do now on the ground? And how do we use the research question as a means of doing the work that we do within communities, to put more back into the communities, but also to explore how our practice can be enhanced, improved, new ideas injected into it. We're asking people to look at the projects that they're interested in, the projects that they're doing, and the resources in the broadest terms that they have, and asking them to just talk to each other about what they might do together. It's a way for them to experience the cross-pollination process.
Cross-pollination should be something natural, something that's happening because people share their existing project in order to do something that has an added value. So cross-pollination is about using existing resources and projects and not reinventing the wheel and trying to create something new. The novelty is coming from putting together different expertise, skills, knowledge and resources.
We have an ambassador at this table. We're waiting for an ambassador.
We're so inspired. We actually have 2 projects. I'm going to sell both of them to you because they're both awesome. So our first project is we're really interested in looking at basically older people's health and well-being, and we wanted to explore, progress and develop better provision and services around that specifically. And the area we want to use is kind of technology and smart cities, so involving devices in the home. The current resources that we have...
Cross-pollination allows different people and different practices to dip into each other's work in a way that injects new ideas, new concepts, new approaches, and just working a bit differently.
You have your community transport experiences.
I mean, I'm thinking this housing and regeneration is probably quite helpful. Would we be able to involve this in the area?
Cross-pollination is enhancing.
And creative.
It's not just about chatting and writing things down and words.
Impact.
It's about making things.
Connecting.
So one of the projects was a community journalist training project that happened in Sheffield, and it was a cross-pollination project.
Well, I started volunteering for Justine, the Silent Cities, because I met her at a homeless shelter, because I was homeless for a bit. Silent Cities got a few people who were interested in journalism, and taught them all these skills and how they could use them to give voices to people, basically.
So we invited the community journalists down to take part in this workshop, which would bring the skills they had just learned through their community journalist training and teach the young people we were working with to use media as a tool for expressing their views about place. So we are working with local developers, a local school in Elephant and Castle, to think about the regeneration, large-scale regeneration, in particular a new park space that will be developed.
We came over to work when they did the project with the school, and we came over to teach them basically the skills we learnt when we did the project with Silent City. So I was part of teaching the kids photography. So I taught them the techniques and how they can use them to find the the potential of the place and things like that. Yeah.
We wanted to get young people involved in the conversation and give them the skills and confidence to talk about what is important to them and to help the developer get the best space for everyone. So part of the conversation was also helping the young people think about everybody else, not just themselves and their particular needs.
I'd never worked with kids before. I never thought I could be a teacher. I mean, the kids were amazing. Yeah, I loved every part of it.
We were interested in questions about how to get voluntary sector organisations or social change organisations or social impact organisations to think more about how technology can facilitate their practice. The voluntary sector tends to get cut down corporate software, which is in no way suitable for their needs. So what we wanted to do was take open software, which was much more flexible and also free, and work with that to build things that were actually appropriate to social innovation, social change, and to the organisations that promote that kind of work.
Initially, we ran a workshop in which we introduced a group of small voluntary organisations to a range of possible tools, and we tried out some scenarios which we thought might be typical of fundraising. And after that, someone who was a participant in those workshops took one of the tools and saw a possibility for how that could be used and came back with this proposal for using Trello for presenting the process of bid writing, but also managing that process so that she could mentor people through the tool.
So we want to look at how we can make that software available as an open source solution in a way which involves the community and gives ownership to the community which is using it, as well as or as opposed to the developers.
It's gone on to be used in a couple of voluntary sector infrastructure organisations, and we're hoping to present it to the Institute of Fundraising.
Making the difference with this project, I think, happened at various levels. At the level of civil society organizations, where there is a transformation in terms of their practices and their way that they are approaching communities, but also at the level of communities themselves, where we have a lot of new people, new young people become ambassadors of co-design practices and cascading the co-design practice within the wider society. One example of fostering ambassadors from this project is the Flossy conference. We ran a 2-day workshop where it was about diversifying design, the Internet of Things and independent living. And we had people from that workshop that were inspired by the specific model of co-producing and co-design work. And it was fascinating to see these people go into their own context of technologies within cars and applying the same process.
Co-design brings multiple benefits. One of them is that people have a stake in what they've produced, and so they're more likely to engage with it and sort of champion it and take it forward. It can be quite time consuming, but it actually changes the culture of an organisation. So there's a sort of extra bang for your buck in a different dimension if that's of value. And I suppose another aspect of it is that you often come up with more interesting aspects to a problem, which means that the solution might be ultimately more robust.